Hey everyone, it's Justine and welcome to a new card video. Today we're going to be exploring 12 ways to add gold to your cards. And I am working with Scrapbook and Cards Today exclusive stamp line that has 4 stamps at the moment that are available. It's a beautiful bundle for $38 or they're available individually. And I'm going to be using these to create my video today, which is 12 ways to add gold to your cards. So let's start off with the very first technique that I'm going to be showing off. This is probably very common, and it was the first technique that made me fall in love with card making and scrapbooking in general. So I wanted to feature it as the first thing, and that is heat embossing. So I am grabbing my Gina K Designs Wreath Builder stencil. I've stuck it into my MISTI. Now, if you haven't heard of this tool or seen it before, I've done videos on it, and it creates the perfect wreath when you're stamping. All you need to do is add your stamp to your paper. It usually works best with a square card, but you can use an A2 size card like I'm using here. And all you need to do is just simply pick up the stamp with the MISTI and then just keep twisting it with your paper. So you keep twisting your paper in the different directions in all the corners, and then you're good to go. You just keep stamping over and over again, and it creates a perfect circle. And if you're a seasoned card maker, you know how a perfect circle is difficult to create. Now I'm using Polished Ink by Catherine Pooler to stamp out this first layer of my wreath, and I wanted to mention too that the stencil comes in a pack of 2. It comes with 4-inch stencil template here, and I believe 3.5 or 3.75 is the second size. So it's perfect for stamping card panels like this one that measures 4 by 5.25. Now, all you do if you want to keep adding layers to your wreath is you continue adding your stamps and then do the same thing over and over again. You just keep turning it round and round, and you can make them as intricate or as simple as you like. I think this wreath looks good as it is, but that would not fit the theme for this video since it's all about adding gold. So let's start adding some gold. So I am now going in with the technique heat embossing, and I am going in with some embossing ink. I am using the Nuvo clear ink for this. That's made for embossing, and I really like it. It's quite juicy and fun. And I am just stamping this over and over again, and you can see that it's clear. You can even see it on my screen. It's just a watermark ink, and I'm going to be covering this in some gold heat embossing powder. And the embossing powder that I'm going to be using today is a very fine detail embossing powder, and I'm using Gilded by Brutus Monroe, and that completes my first technique of heat embossing. I'm sorry we're already 3 minutes into the video and I'm only getting into this, but trying to fit 1 hour of content, which is how long it took me to create all the different card ideas in this video, is a little bit difficult in, the amount of time that I did this video in. So I just added the powder, and I'm going in now with my heat tool to melt the powder. And so I like to have my heat gun on for about 40 to 60 seconds before I apply it to my paper. That way it gets the heat appropriate on my paper. I don't have to leave it very long on my paper, and it prevents warpage. And you can see when that embossing powder turns shiny, it's all ready to go, and it is my favorite thing in the entire world. It is also resistant to things like inks, so I could go over top of it with some ink now and it would resist that, the gold would pop through, but that's a whole other technique for a whole another day. So that was technique number 1. In order to top off the card, I simply stamped the thanks sentiment here from this beautiful stamp set from SCT called Thanks. Very simple. And I stamped that twice to get a nice dark impression. I fussy cut it with a pair of Tim Holtz scissors, the new ones in black. There's nothing different to the scissors than the red ones, except they're black and I had to have them. And I stuck that on my MISTI to kind of get the placement correct for my mini sentiment that goes along with it, which says, thanks for being there. I definitely have a lot of cards to make like this for the next little while, so I was perfect example for today's video. I just simply added some Ultra Bond glue to the back and then stuck it on the front of the card. I use an A2 size card base 4.25 by 5.5 in a side folding card in order to create this, and you can see how that gold just shimmers and shines. For my next technique, we're going to get a little bit quicker into the techniques rather than this first card that was a little bit long. I am using the Succulents Stamp, which are super trendy right now. I have several in my house and I love them. Do you have succulents? I'm curious. And I am going to go ahead now and just prep my work surface here with an embossing bag. I don't want any powder to stick to my paper. Things like oils from your hands and general static will make the embossing powder or any sort of powder stick to your paper, so it's a good idea to use an embossing bag when you're working. I'm going to be adding the succulents to my Misty here, and I am being cautious that I want to have stamps hanging off of the edge, which means that I can't have my cardstock traditionally in the corner like I normally would. I'm laying down all of the stamps, simply stamping with some of that clear embossing ink again, and then I'm going to be going over it with some Perfect Pearls, which is a super fun and inexpensive tool that everyone should have in their craft room in all sorts of colors. Now, Perfect Pearls are a very, very thin powder, very, very fine. I use a Perfect Pearls brush, but any sort of dry paint brush will do that has a soft bristle. And I'm just simply swiping over top of the clear ink. Now, you might think this looks like a hot mess, because it does. And then when all I need to do is just simply put that dry brush back and forth and swipe it, and get all of that excess powder off, and it will all come off except for where you had that Versamark ink or that clear ink. In order to set the powder so it doesn't come off, you just need to spray a little bit of water in the air and just quickly run your card through that mist. I don't spray it directly on my cardstock because it would warp since it's not watercolor cardstock. Now, in order to add the third technique to the card, or the sentiment, I'm going to foil the sentiment on the front, which brings me to technique number 3. There are so many ways to foil. I have a ton of videos, which I'll link to below in the video description, on how you could foil with or without a laminator, with or without heat. There's so many ways to do it, and I plan on doing another video in the near future on all the ways combined. Since I've done all the techniques kind of in all these different videos, I think one culminating video would be perfect. For today's video, I'm using the Spellbinders machine here. It's a Glimmer foil machine, and this will heat up a die, and you can then go ahead and add foil on top. Now, this die is a letterpress die, meaning that the words are actually raised. And then I heated up the die, so there's a button there that you press when you're ready to heat up your die, so it heats it up really hot. You add that foil on top, you put your cardstock on top, and then you run it through your Big Shot machine. So I'm doing that off screen right now, and it runs really easily through the Big Shot machine. It just gives it a little extra pressure on the foil in order to get it to stick to your cardstock. Now, this machine is super fun. It works with standard dies as well. You don't need these Glimmer foil plate dies, but they just work in a little bit different way, where it would just emboss the outline of the die, whatever would be cut. And these ones here are more of an impression or a raised surface where it would normally be your paper, if that makes sense. So you can see here how fun this turned out, and I really like the fact that the Perfect Pearls resisted that foil. I think that could be a super pretty background. Something to try. For technique number 4, it's one of my favorite things here, and that is the Nuvo Drops. Now, I'm obsessed with Nuvo Drops because I always loved enamel drops, and I loved buying them, but I hated sticking them on because they're so tedious, and I also didn't really care for the price point much on them. And I love the fact that this Nuvo Drop is about $3 a bottle and creates hundreds of these dots, and I can put them on whenever I like directly onto my cardstock without having to worry about glue or anything like that. And that's another way that you could add gold to your cards, is Nuvo Drops that come in so many different colors. For my next card here, I'm doing some layered stamping first. I am going to be using some of these stamps here in the upcoming cards, these really beautiful Peonies Stamp Set, and it's a layering die, and then also the Inspiration Stamp Set, and I am obsessed with that butterfly, and those 2 cursive sentiments are stunning. So I'm using 2 colors of ink, 2 of my lightest shades, Garden Party as well as Bellini. And I am stamping the stem for the flower as well as the flower. In the end, in this video, I ended up only using the flowers, but this is a really pretty stamp. And I love the fact that when they created the stamp, they wrote next to it on the transfer sheet, like 1A, 1B, 1C, 1D. They took all the guesswork out of it. So you can see here I'm stamping, and I'm using a technique I use often with layering stamps. I find layering stamps not worth it to stamp just one, because they are a little bit of work because there's several layers. So what I do is I add it to the corner of my MISTI, and then I turn my paper 4 times and I stamp each time. So I get one of these in each corner. And that way I can stamp this 4 times, get 4 flowers, and really all I'm doing is an extra close of the door and an extra inking process. Makes things so much faster and easier. So now my flower is almost finished being built. I'm onto my last and final layer here, and I'm using various colors from Catherine Pooler, and I'll list them below in the video description. So I'm using 4 different colors for this, and I'm trying to use shades that are very similar. And they really just make the flower come to life. They look so realistic in the end, and I went ahead and fussy cut them when I was done. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to die cut a die from Pretty Pink Posh using my Gemini Junior die cutting machine. I can see I'm slowly battling the light in my video. I know the daylight's running out. It runs out so quick in Canada. Honestly, I can only film on pretty much Saturdays from 10 to 3:30. Officially first world problems, but still. Anyway, I die cut that on a regular sheet of paper. I put it onto a bit of acetate, and I'm just going to cut around the sentiment itself. Now, I'm putting my scissors and I'm angling them. I've already glued this, but I'm angling it so that I'm going underneath the die cut. There's no way I'm going to fussy cut around all those scallop edges, but my scissors will just slide underneath because I use liquid glue, and it's no issue. You can also see on the right side that I have die cut the same die, but this I use some Spellbinders foam. And that way I don't have to worry about creating, you know, the foam tape in such a thin edge around my frame here. I've just literally die cut that entire thing out of foam, which helps me really just get an accurate representation of the die. And I, of course, have gone along and I've glued that onto the foam. So I have the paper, the layer of acetate, and then the foam. So now comes my 5th way to add gold. I'm getting to the point of adding gold to this card here. I'm sorry, I feel like I'm really going on in this video quite a bit, and I apologize. But I'm going to go ahead and add some sequins and confetti to this and make it a shaker card. The sequins and confetti that I'm using today are a mix. I'm using some from Nuvo, and these are really, really thin circles as well as sequins, and I thought I'd add both to the card. Just be careful not to really get any on your hugs sentiment. Just to quickly finish up the card here, I've gone ahead, added some Ultra Bond glue to the back of the foam. I've stuck my card base on top, and I'm able to wiggle it around a little bit if I need to because it's liquid glue. And I have my official shaker done, and I'm going to add those layering flowers here to the bottom of the card and attach it to a card base and call it a day. I ended up removing all of those stems because I didn't like the way that they looked, but overall I'm happy with the end result of my card. And since you stuck through me through all that, I thought I'd throw technique number 6 in here at the same time, and that's a gold glitter pen. This is also from Nuvo, and I really, really love it, and I'm using it here to color in my sentiment. You can use it to color in dies, to color with in general, or even to hand letter with it if you'd like. It's got a very stiff tip, so it wouldn't work for things like brush lettering, but regular lettering it would work just fine. And it's a really stunning shade of gold in my opinion. Here is a final look at this card here with all the sparkle and shimmer of all the different gold techniques used on this card. Now we come into some of the fun mixed media techniques, and I'm going to go on with technique number 7, which is using Glimmer Paste. Now I am putting down my stencil, and I apologize for the light here. I ended up having to film a little bit into the evening with some lights on, and I am going now in with some of this Glimmer Paste from Nuvo, and this is just stunning. I love this stuff. It's so fun. It's a really, really gritty paste that you can use to spread over top of your stencil. And I recommend as well, before you get started doing this, grab a bucket of hot water or a Tupperware container so you can throw in your stencil right away so you don't have to worry about running to the sink after to get the stuff off, because it hardens quite quickly, which means it dries really quickly, which is always good. So once you spread that all over, kind of like you do butter on toast, then you just take off your stencil and just let that dry. Probably won't take you much longer than 20 minutes to dry for sure. Another way you can add gold to your cards is by using a mousse. I am using expanding mousse, also from Nuvo and Tonic, and this here is so much fun to play with because it's not just your standard mousse, but it will expand under heat. So I'm going to spread this over again, making sure to add a fairly thick layer on here. The thicker layer, the better when it comes to expanding mousse. You'll get more of a result with it. I will have a video coming out in the new year all about expanding mousses as soon as I give them a little bit more try and figure out some more techniques with them. So I'm going now with a rectangle die from Memory Box, and I'm just going to cut this down a little bit. I got a little bit of a smudge on my stencil and I wanted to make sure to hide my mistake. So I cut that down before adding technique number 9, which is some gold paper. This gold paper comes in both matte as well as shiny. One's called polished gold and the other one is a mirror cardstock gold, which is shiny, shiny, shiny. And you can die cut anything. So for this I die cut the background for the word friend, and I added friend in a white cardstock here, as well as the dotted I that I'm going to add in a minute because that always drives me crazy when I forget that. So gold paper has been my standard go-to, as you can tell with all my previous Christmas videos. This holiday season, it is stunning and I'm in love. So I've used it about 1,000,001 times. I've had to order multiple packages. So here is a final look at that expanding mousse card. I apologize I didn't show the expanding part very much, but if you just add heat, it will bubble up and create a mousse that is expanded. But in this situation, I actually kept it just plain. I didn't add any heat, so it stayed smooth. For my card with the Glimmer Paste, however, that's that glitter paste that I was using, I am using my Happy Jig here. This is a tool from Memory Keepers. You can see that it has a grid with letters and numbers, which you line up and match. It's like playing Battleship, and it tells you exactly where to put all of these different pegs into your Happy Jig. It also comes with wires to cut your wire, and I believe it has some sample wire as well that comes with it, but I ordered a whole bunch of different colors, and I've been loving making sentiments, and in my opinion for scrapbooking this is really awesome. For cards it's a little bit bulky, but I think if you sent it in a bubble wrap mailer or it's something you handed in person, it's totally fine. So you just simply stick your wire into the area that has the slit in the peg, and then you just follow the instructions on the guide, and you just go up and down and put it all around these little pegs here, and it creates the most fun sentiments. I absolutely love creating with this, and I used it for my advent calendar this year, and I've been playing around with lots of words. The guide itself doesn't come with a ton of words that you can create, but there's tons and tons of inspiration on Pinterest that show you exact placement for these pegs. So really it's just going around the pegs. It's nothing confusing at all. Just cursive writing with a wire and some pegs to help keep everything in place. So I created a hello sentiment, and then when you're all finished, you can just go ahead and clip your wire with the clippers. Now, I have to say this wire cutter is the best one I've ever had. I use it now for everything. And you just simply lift off your wire when you're all finished, and it creates a sentiment. I snapped that sentiment onto my card using a couple of thin and very small glue dots, which made things really easy, and I know that that's going to stick on there really well because glue dots are so sticky, it's crazy. So just adding that here onto a white strip, I found it got a little lost on the card, putting it straight directly on the cardstock, so adding that white strip was super helpful. Next up, I'm grabbing a spray from Altenew and just spritzing it on my paper. That is an 11th way to use gold in your cards. Create a sprayed background using pigment sprays from any brand really would work, and adding that as your background technique for your card is really fun. And technique number 12 I'm going to add on right now before I finish up this card here with that stunning butterfly die I showed you earlier, and that is adding some washi tape with gold washi tape. There I'm sure are million other ways that you could add gold to your cardstock, but I wanted to go through 12 of my favorite ways to add gold into my cards since I've been using it so much as a color in the last little while in my cards since it's so elegant and fun. So how do you like to use gold in your cards? Let me know which technique is your favorite, or if I didn't mention your favorite, please mention it. I would really love to hear it. Now I went ahead and went back to technique number 1 and simply heat embossed this butterfly in some gold embossing powder, and I fussy cut it to attach it to my card, as well as I heat embossed the sentiment in the end as well, which is, I had mentioned that I wanted to use this gorgeous cursive writing sentiment that says beautiful inside and out, and I think I have several friends that I could give this to. I'm once again prepping my area with that embossing bag, and I'm going ahead stamping it down and then adding the embossing powder and heat embossing. So that's the end of today's 12 ideas on how to use gold in your work, and please be sure to hit that subscribe button as well as the bell so that you're notified whenever there are new videos that come out. Below I have a suggested video for you, and you're also welcome to subscribe to my channel by clicking on my face there. And I will see you in a couple of days for a new video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye now.